And welcome back to Wolf and Friends Gaming. We are doing once again our top 5s. This time we're doing our top 5 Batman Arkham Asylum boss fights. My brother has more experience with this.
Hello, true Arkham fan here.
Yeah, and we're getting excited for Arkham Knight, so let's start off with our
Number
top 5.
Bane.
Bane, he's the first boss fight, and he's somewhat difficult depending on how well you play the game.
Bane, you have to hurl a battering at him before he charges you. That way he loses focus and rams himself into a wall, so it gives you the opportunity, while he's dazed and confused, to beat him up and lower his health.
Similar to a Titan, thug, except you can't ride him at all.
And fighting him without battering him is basically suicide, because Bane's punches take a lot of toll on your health.
Also, another good thing is that once he's dazed, you can actually use him to run over the henchmen that are called down every time.
Yes, it's very useful for taking out those pesky henchmen who keep distracting you from the real boss.
The build-up to Bane is somewhat interesting as well, because at first you see him as a weakling, and then Joker pumps him with the Venom, is it?
It's actually Titan, an enhanced version of his Venom, which makes Bane more powerful than he already is with just plain Venom.
So yeah, his boss fight is somewhat hard. You have to do it like 4 times, is it?
3.
Okay, 3 times.
3 times.
And he basically takes parts of the wall around him and tries to throw it at you.
Which is also helpful for taking out the henchmen by dodging them.
Right, and then that leads to his downfall because the entire thing collapses upon him.
Any of you Bane fans might be sad that this is the only major role Bane plays in the game. But he's very entertaining as a boss fight, but alas, he's not going to be a higher ranking just because of how hard it is to take him down and how simple the solution is to confuse him.
Alright, with Bane out of the way, we go to our number 4. One that might shock some of you. The Joker.
The Joker, sadly, is not ranked higher, all because of his boss fight felt kind of anticlimactic in the end, where he emphasizes how untouchable and badass he is. In the end, he pumps himself full of the Titan on himself and hulks out, and his boss fight actually seems a lot easier than Bane's.
It's very repetitive as well. I mean, he gets distracted by Jack Ryder's helicopter, which then you just have to use the Ultra Bat Claw, his like spine and arms, and then you drag him down.
Basically, you beat him up when his claws get stuck in the floor.
However, when he's not stuck in the floor, you have to dodge him because he has a very long range with his arms, surprisingly.
It's not as satisfying considering how cheap it is when you're on Titan. You can't fight him on fist fight like people would love to see Batman normally fight the Joker.
Yeah. Another thing about him is that when you finish him off, surprisingly, Batman doesn't die because he explosive gels his fist.
Or it doesn't blow off his hand once he punches him out.
Yeah.
But he is Batman, and Batman can do anything.
Some other things about it is sort of also, like my brother said, the build-up, where at first he has Commissioner Gordon, like, hostage, and he's going to inject him with it.
Then Batman takes the bullet.
And then uses the cure that he made on himself, instead of the Joker.
But the Joker's boss fight was entertaining. But it did leave him with some consequences right after.
Yes, which we'll begin into those consequences in our next top 5 video.
The Arkham City bosses. You'll have to wait for that one, though.
With the Joker gone and Mark Hamill out, we'll go to our number 3.
Dr. Crane. No, not this Dr. Crane. We're talking about the Scarecrow Dr. Crane.
Dr. Jonathan Crane, to be exact. Sort of his origin was that he's always been obsessed with phobias of people.
He always wanted to scare people as a child. He wants to be the center of attention, and to do that he has to cause fear into others.
I know what some of you may be thinking, but Wolf, this isn't a true boss fight. That is true to some extent. You see, he's more of a boss level.
Yes, Scarecrow basically plays the Eye of Sauron that you have to keep dodging from and not be in his sight, otherwise he'll squash you like a bug in that world.
And you do it like 3 times through each level, where all you do is it's basically, instead of going to a third person beat 'em up, it goes into a 2/3
2D platform on where you have to fight him, but you never actually physically fight the Scarecrow. You fight his skeleton men in his level.
You also defeat him by finding the bat signals and shining them in his chest.
Or in the last case, his crotch.
Yeah. All he does is keep rotating around like in this photo here, and if you get into his light, the screen flashes red. All Batman does is stand there because he's an idiot. And then you get the end scene.
But he made it to top 3 because he's a very entertaining boss. Very good boss level, basically, where you're trying to take him out, but you can't physically hurt him.
Other things with the Scarecrow in the game is that he actually apparently has a challenge map sequence.
Yes, one hit from his skeleton goons and you die. You have to take as many as you can out without getting hit once in the game. All while Scarecrow makes fun of you.
So yeah, Scarecrow, somewhat fearful, and he provokes fear in others. He's very skinny, and I mean, if he was to come into a fist fight with Batman, he'd probably lose.
Scarecrow at the end is seen last being dragged underwater by Killer Croc, yet the end credits show that he does survive. Some of you may not think he's a threat, but just you wait.
Arkham Knight, which both my brother and I are going to be expecting. Hopefully it comes up on Steam so I can show it to you guys.
Hopefully Scarecrow gets a fight he deserves.
So, number 2 now. Killer Croc, a personal favorite of mine for a long time, although he's nightmare fuel to a lot of people.
Killer Croc basically outdoes Scarecrow in the fear factor of this game because of his boss fight is very scary.
Although it's, at some points it is very boring. But basically you're trying to find the cure or the anti-venom thing from
the Titan underneath the asylum because Ivy's plants are leaking it underneath Croc's lair, the sewers.
The other thing about it is that you're on these like wooden platforms, and you have to stealth move around because of the sound waves you make as you walk around.
The only sound you hear in that cave is Croc's breathing, which makes it even more scarier knowing that there's a crocodile man hunting after you down there.
The only way to defeat him is the shock collar he has in place ever since the beginning of the game when he's shown moving from the elevator.
As you can see, you have to move silently. It's recommended you do the crouch down running kind of thing, where it helps you move fast without giving away too much sound. Although what makes it hard is Croc still comes up somehow finding you, and the scariest part is you don't know when it's going to happen.
Sometimes he can actually come up behind you, but the first couple of times it's easy and it gives you the left trigger thing to do.
You have to hurl a battering at his shock collar, which painfully administers his shocks, which force him to go back underwater for recovery.
Also, sorry about the video quality, just my laptop is terrible when it comes to it. But yeah, you just keep walking around, so I couldn't pronounce that for a second. And as long as the meters is white, it means you're going in the right direction. If it's red, you're going in the wrong direction. Pretty simple.
It's a very nightmarish boss fight, knowing it's a predator challenge. You have to find all of those pods carrying the toxin Batman needs to make a cure with. But Killer Croc is still hunting you down, and don't worry, you get time to get the antitoxins, but once you do, then Croc's back hunting you like an animal.
Sometimes he'll come up in front of you, other times he can actually come behind you and kill you, and you won't even know it till it's too late.
What's interesting is this boss fight shows that fighting Croc hand-to-hand is basically suicide, but in Arkham Origins it shows that there was a point in time where Batman could actually physically fight Killer Croc fairly in a fist fight.
Yeah.
This shows that Croc is now evolving more animal than man, and if he shows up in Arkham Knight, he's probably going to be barely intelligent to even speak.
Sadly though, he's not a boss fight in Arkham City, which I really would have liked to see.
Instead, he has a quick cameo while you're going down the sewers.
But with Killer Croc's boss fight coming to a close and this title card also going, he also is not gone, as seen this.
Chances he might be back in Arkham Knight, and it will be kind of ironic to see Scarecrow having to face him again.
So a scaly fighter out of the way, we go to our top 1 boss fight. Poison Ivy, or Dr. Pamela Isley. probably the most sexual boss fight of the entire game.
Especially because a lot of YouTube commenters say that whenever you hit Poison Ivy, she makes a very suggestive noise when she takes damage. But I think the developers did it on purpose to distract the players.
Probably. However, her build-up is, like in this scene, she's stuck in her cell.
And then gets released by Harley Quinn once she journeys in there and you have to rescue Warden Sharp. Your worst nightmare is Poison Ivy, a lady who controls plants, is released, and a whole bunch of lunatics that want to kill everything in sight.
And then the Joker makes it even more fun by injecting her with Titan somehow.
How Joker got Titan into her is a mystery itself, but it just makes her boss fight even more intense.
Speaking of her boss fight, it's actually somewhat hard. I mean, in this scene, she's somehow shooting you with balls of energy.
Spores,
okay. And you have to evade those, obviously.
and you throw a battering at her in the center of the flower whenever it opens up.
And whenever she becomes weakened, you have to put explosive gel on the pod, doing some minor damage. But of course, she also calls henchmen and calls up like vines to keep you in one place, which you can use those on the henchmen.
It does some damage, but it doesn't always finish them. But Poison Ivy gets the honor of being number 1 because she is the hardest boss you'll ever face in the game.
And hottest, I say so.
You speak for all male DC fans everywhere. Poison Ivy is an excellent boss, though, in the end, because she acts more like the true final boss, considering getting her out of the way you expect Joker to be hard, but as we said before, he is not as hard as he seems. But Poison Ivy definitely qualifies as a great and hard boss.
So, you will be seeing both me and my brother in these top 5s, and I thank you. Please leave a like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.